75% of women who say they dated a narcissist just dated a guy who wanted to cheat and was a bit of an asshole, but he wasn't actually a narcissist. Was there therapy you went to? Was there a book you read? Or is this just like life experience where you can? Because I agree with what you're saying, especially the self-love part. That is the biggest issue when you're in a relationship with somebody where 90% of the time it's great. And then insecurities come out and they're blaming you for their insecurities. You didn't do anything wrong. And you try to explain to them, hey, just so you understand, your self-esteem has to do with yourself. There's a gap I can't bridge if you don't love yourself. No matter what I do, no matter how much I try to tell you, you are the one I picked and you're my girlfriend and I picked you over everyone else. There's a bridge I can't gap that you have to gap internally. I hear you say the thing about self-love, and that's the correct answer. That is the thing you learn. But a lot of times when you're dealing with a girl who's in her early 20s, she doesn't know that. Where did you learn that lesson? Was it from the cheating, or was from something else?
It was not from the cheating. I definitely learned it by working on my relationships, working on myself, just various books, various TED Talks, over years of reading psychology books to better understand, because I'm just a genuinely curious person. So I just know that I can't control other people. So if I'm with someone that doesn't make me feel good or brings out the worst in me, then eventually I know that I can't change them, or I can only change myself. So I either have to accept that this is who they are and I have to change myself by not being insecure around them, or I just have to look for a new partner. But I think for me personally, that's what I try to teach my listeners in my podcast as well, is instead of just blaming everyone around, oh, I'm only dating assholes, I'm only dating cheaters. Okay, well, you can't change them, but let's look within. Why are you only drawn to cheaters? What's so cool and exciting about them? Let's figure it out. Because I think it's all about changing yourself. For example, I've dated in the past insecure men, and dating an insecure partner is never going to be beneficial, because there's this philosopher, I forgot who, and some research, and they say how people fall in love based on how they see themselves through your eyes.
Yeah.
We're dating and I feel like shit about myself, and then I see myself through your eyes and I think I'm shit. I could never love you. So you're going to be busy there falling in love with me while I will never love you. And then eventually I will start to push you down and put you down to my level. And that's women or men. That's why you should just not date someone that's very insecure, because it'll just bring you down to their level.
One thing you said that really spoke to me, I've never heard it described. Well, maybe I have, but I think the way you described it was very eloquent, was this concept of like, you're now dating a guy who is trying to express love to you in an emotionally healthy way, but because you're not used to that, you see him as like a beta, or you see him as a simp or something like that, and then you start pushing him away. I thought that was really interesting. By the way, men do the same thing, but I was just curious, like, has that something you've seen personally? Because I thought that was a very interesting insight that you had.
I don't know if I said the word beta or simp. I don't think that's what I said, but I talked about the fact that everything is based on how you feel about yourself. And this is for men and women. So if I don't feel good about myself, I will then be more drawn to people who will validate that feeling subconsciously without realizing. So if I was just because I have a friend and she was in a relationship where she treated her partner like shit.
Mm-hmm.
And now she's in a relationship that's a little toxic, and he treats her poorly. Sometimes, they do it to each other. But I tried to explain to her that the reason is because she kept telling me, I feel like shit for how I treated my ex-partner. He deserved better, blah, blah. I'm such a shit person. I don't deserve a good person. And I'm like, this is why you're with this current partner. Because this guy secretly validates how you feel deep down about yourself. So until you fix that, you're going to stay with this guy because he keeps making you feel exactly how you feel about yourself. And that's like shit. So then it's the same thing. If I feel like shit about myself, it's going to be hard for me to date someone that shows me love. If either one, I don't feel that way about myself, then it's going to look foreign to me. Or B, I grew up in a household where love, I either had to chase it, or love comes out only toxic. Then if you're showing me healthy love, it's not going to feel familiar to me. So I'm going to think, oh, that person's being needy. That person is overwhelming me with their emotions. That person's being too much, when in reality, they're just being healthy. That person's just trying to love me, but I don't know what it looks like because I've never seen it before.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I was that dude in my early 20s, and it caused me to change and not become an asshole, but to set boundaries a little bit more clearly in my relationships. And then one of the things that happened later on in life was I would date someone and I would tell them like what my boundaries were, and when I didn't change for them, then they would say, not to me specifically, but I've seen this happen with other women where they're just like, my boyfriend was a narcissist, and I was like, no, your boyfriend told you exactly what the relationship was going to be like. You didn't accept the way it was, and now that he's moved, he's kept his boundaries. Now you're calling him a narcissist. I had a psychiatrist on here, or I had a family therapist on here, and she was like, she agreed with me. Did a guy who wanted to cheat and was a bit of an asshole, but he wasn't actually a narcissist. And I think you made a clip similar to that.
Yeah. Again, obviously, you talk more about dating women. I talk more about dating men.
Sure.
But it's still the same. I struggle with people taking trendy TikTok words and then just making it everything, whether it's let's say, okay, here's an example. If you and I right now we're having a conversation and here's an example. I didn't work on my daddy issues. So right now you and I are having a conversation. So because I didn't work on my daddy issues, I walk around thinking that all men think they're better than me and they just want to put me down. So you and I can have a perfectly normal conversation, but because I have not worked on myself, I will then be projecting, and then I would leave this conversation being like, he tried to belittle me, he tried to put me down, he tried to act like he's better than me, he was gaslighting me the whole time. And that will become my reality, which is so scary. And there's a lot of people on this planet that walk around with a reality that's not real.
Yeah.
Because of their wounds from inside and everything that they haven't worked on. And it's the same thing with the whole narcissist and these other words. Research shows there's only 1% to 2% of narcissists, diagnosed narcissists in this world.
Yeah.
In the world. It's still a large number, but it's most likely 5 of your exes are not narcissists.
Right.
It's impossible. Because first of all, most narcissists don't even go to get diagnosed because they're too self-absorbed. But secondly, narcissists don't even have empathy. And I believe that when you try to self-diagnose these people, you also give them too much credit. Because when you say, my ex is a narcissist, you're basically saying that he couldn't help himself to not give a shit about you, versus saying, and because he has a medical issue and that's why he was a terrible person, versus just saying that person didn't fulfill my needs because they genuinely just didn't want to and they didn't care. I think that's even worse. For me, that would help me get over someone faster, to know that they just genuinely didn't give a shit about me, versus, oh, but they have a medical issue.
Yes, they have a cluster B personality disorder, which now gives them an out. Exactly. I totally agree with this.
Empathy. So they literally can't feel empathy for you.
Yeah. So let's talk about this. So if you guys look in the DSM, there's these things called personality disorders: the mad, bad, and sad. Cluster B are the bad ones, and that's going to be histrionic, antisocial personality disorder, narcissistic, and the last one is borderline personality disorder. About 5.9% of the population have borderline personality disorder. Of those people with BPD, 40% of them are narcissists. 100% of people who have antisocial personality disorder also have narcissistic personality disorder. And then there's a difference between people who have NPD. People who have NPD, narcissistic personality disorder, had to have gone to a psychiatrist and asked for help, meaning you had come to the realization that your narcissism was causing some sort of dilemma in your life. And then there are narcissists who do not go get diagnosed, and that's a different number. So regardless of what those numbers are, some people say 2%, some people say 5%. Dr. Martha Stout has a great book on this where she talks about the differences in those cluster B personality disorders. The point is, narcissism is a neurochemical reaction in your brain, and some dude who wanted to fuck your sister does not necessarily mean that they are the same thing. And so we throw these words around, and what happens is when we do that is that when you deal with an actual person who is a psychopath, is a narcissist, has borderline personality disorder, or has histrionic personality disorder, you end up conflating some dude that you met at the bar who ghosted you for someone who is actually possibly a serial killer. And that's where I think these things get really, 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 you water down these words by conflating them. And these words actually have meanings, and we don't understand those meanings, so we just throw that word out. And I think that's dangerous.
I think people are still, overall, things are evolving and science is changing. People are constantly still studying a lot of these terms and definitions, and things overlap. That's why when you said this percentage and then it goes into this percent, it's the same thing. People getting mixed up, whether they're dyslexic or they have ADHD or they have anxiety and depression. A lot of people think they have ADHD, but they actually just have anxiety, because a lot of these things overlap. So I think people are just really too focused on trying to diagnose everyone else and not focus enough just on themselves. And just, we're human and we're all so different. And there's so many unique and different things about us, but I don't go throughout my day and be like, oh wait, why did I just blink twice in 3 seconds?
Yeah.
Do I have this type of disorder? I'm just like, okay, that just happened. It is what it is. And I keep going.